Hey, good evening, Top fans. It's Bill from Top Fan Rivalry here with our last clubhouse of 2021. And I brought some of my good friends along for the ride, or at least they're bringing me along for the ride. I got Viliami in the house. We haven't had him in a while. Viliami, welcome, welcome.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Mike is the first time in the clubhouse. We did an interview together, but now he's joining the boys. Mike, good to have you.
Thank you.
Scott, always good to have you, my friend. Always good to have you.
Yes, sir. Feels like an eternity since I was on. So
It might have been. It might have been. And Mr. Schaefer, touting a good University of Tennessee hat. Good to have you on.
Good to be here.
We're going to do something a little different tonight. We're going to talk about the baseball year in review, 2021, what we saw, what was unique. There's some topics that we may or may not touch on, but feel free to make your comments. Feel free to tell us what you think, and we'll take it from there. Viliami, 2021 baseball, different. What thoughts? Fans are back in the stands. Tell me. You're an Angel fan, so I know this is going to hurt, but.
It was a good season. I mean, our season stops at September, so it's always a good season up until the end of September. We didn't get last place, so that's always a plus. I think our team did good. We had a lot of injuries that plagued our ball team, but I feel confident going into next year that we can turn it around. I talked to Bill about this before this season, that I thought Ohtani was going to win the MVP, and sure enough, he did. So that's awesome to see there. Another MVP on the team. Pitching did surprisingly well. I mean, those that actually pitched and weren't injured. But yeah, I think overall we have a lot of stepping stones to get to where we need to be to finally get to October.
The boys, just to get it straight. So Viliami's an Angel fan, and we feel for him. So we got 3 Dodger fans, a White Sox fan, and an Angel fan. I think all the rest of us, would agree, hey, take the MVP, but we'll play in October. So I guess enjoy the MVP. Mike,
come on our show and we're just gonna rip you about the Angels.
Hey, I'm okay with it. You know what? I mean, it gets me out there. So I mean, it is what it is.
Scott, you missed the episode when we were talking about free agency, and Dave had a little bit of fun with Rob, the Cubs fan, during the trade deadline.
Wow.
Yeah, when they traded half their team, and they keep saying that they're a big market team with all the money to sign whoever they want, and then they ditch everybody.
Yeah, that was one of the weirdest fire sales I've ever seen in baseball. I mean,
leave it to the Cubs.
I got a few Cub fans that are friends that were not very happy about it, as I'm sure you can imagine.
You think? I mean, that was a crazy, weird trade deadline, right?
Yeah, this whole season was interesting, but the trade deadline especially, it was, and it was like it burned hot and quick, and then was over. But it was just everyone in their dog was getting traded places, and I mean, so many shocking trades. I think, but the Cubs had to be the big one, because it was like they just gutted their World Series team. They got rid of everybody.
For fun,
it would stink to be a Cubs fan, because that was a good core group.
Yeah.
Well, you can pretty much count 110 of the last 111 years. It sucked to be a Cub fan. So
that's true.
Cubs are with you.
That's true. Very true.
Oh, awesome.
Sucks to be an Angels fan also, but you know what? We're still here.
Hey, at least you're not a Padres fan.
Yeah, at least not a Padres fan.
There's only one thing that's worse than a Cub fan, is a bandwagon Cub fan.
Oh, for sure.
So I'll give you credit if you stick with your team.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
A bandwagon anything on a fan.
Yeah. Blown about by the winds of baseball, whoever's the good team that year. I've had plenty of those friends too.
Yeah, I will say with the trade deadline, regardless if your team was a part of the trade deadline or not, I think I definitely think everyone, like Scott says, was surprised and shocked by what the Cubs did. I think it definitely sent ripples throughout the baseball world, letting everyone know that anyone is allowed to be traded. And I will say, I think at some point, if it does get to it, I do think the Angels will trade Mike Trout at some point in time if things go downhill.
Could
They
happen.
can go more downhill.
Yeah, you can go a lot more down. Trust me, you can be the Rangers. That's
Hey, they won an
as low as it
MVP,
is.
remember? An MVP this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh, poor V. Thanks for coming on, V. I hope you're taking,
Yeah,
Been good
yeah. You know,
lunch.
we might lose our MVP if Perry doesn't sign some pitchers.
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
I can see Ohtani in New York for some reason.
yeah, that probably happens eventually. Mets or Yankees.
I was just gonna say, does he go to
I-
Queens or to the Bronx?
I
I
don't
think
know.
New
The way
York
the Mets are
Yankees-
spending right now, who knows?
Did you see who the Mets hired as their manager?
I did. That was apparently a Max Scherzer request.
Another retread.
Yep.
What team is this for him? Like the fourth,
Fifth, I think.
fifth?
Yankees, Orioles, Rangers. Feel like there's one more in there.
Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks. Yeah, this is his fifth team to manage.
When was the last time he managed in the league? Was it a couple of years ago?
Orioles, yeah.
Orioles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, he did well there.
he oversaw, I think,
That's
the
the-
110 loss season or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's the thing, right? The Yankees won their World Series right after he was gone.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I don't know what the hype is with that guy.
yeah, I'm not sure either.
Yeah, but keep in mind there was news articles all over the Bronx when the Yankees hired Joe Torre that said "Clueless Joe."
That's
Right.
I know
that
it.
is true. I remember that. Those, yeah.
I
And
remember
look what he
that
did in the
too.
Bronx, right?
Yeah, he last coached the Orioles in 18.
Yeah.
So it's been a few years too. I mean, that 4 years is nothing to sniff at when you've been out of the game that long. It'll be interesting to see what happens, you know.
Yeah, he's not a young man either, but
No.
it's trending that way when you look at like Dusty Baker and
Yep.
who the
It's
heck?
weird.
La
'Cause it's like you got
La
and then
Russa, yeah.
and then you got the A's just hired Kotze to be their manager.
I like
So
that.
I think
Good
that's a
for him.
great hire for them. And I've always been a fan of him and thought he would have been a good manager.
Yeah,
I feel
he
like that trends in an upward. I mean, I feel like you look at Dusty Baker. I mean, the Astros have been good. I mean, minus the whole controversy with the cheating. But I mean, you look at it. Baker helped them get even higher and everything. You look at La Russa helped the White Sox a bit more also. I mean, I can't really say Madden helped the Angels a ton because we kind of went about where we expected to be. But I mean, you kind of see those older coaches and the older coaching styles coming back, and I feel like that benefits the teams nowadays because they need more discipline and need to be more well-rounded.
So I agree. So who was winners and who was losers in besides obviously the championships, but who do you think overall has been winners and losers in the offseason so far, the postseason? With the trade deadline. I mean with the signings. I'm sorry, with the signings.
Signing since the season's over.
Yeah.
I mean,
Who's-
you got to look at the Mets, right? I mean, the jury is obviously always out until the games happen, but on paper the Mets look like they're making a pretty big splash and spending some money and trying to do. I mean,
the Rangers definitely threw some money
Yeah.
around in their infield.
Mhm.
Simeon and Seager.
yeah, I mean,
didn't Seattle spend quite a bit of money this offseason so far?
I think they did, but I can honestly tell you, I don't
Yeah.
even really know who they got.
Yeah, I feel like you're right, V, but like.
Did Robbie
I'm trying to
Ray
think
sign
about,
with
okay, who did they
Seattle?
spend
Yeah,
that
Robbie
money
Ray
on?
signed
I
with
can't
Seattle.
even think of who it is.
Yeah, Robbie Ray.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Seattle, if anyone, they were so close this past year. I mean, they just needed probably one or two more people on their team, and they probably would have finally made the postseason.
It's incredible how it's so strange to me in sports in general, baseball especially. You can, it feels like you're like the Padres from 2020 to 2021. 2020, it feels like, okay, the Padres are there, maybe one player away, one pitcher away, and then I mean they were trash this year.
Yeah, they
Down the
totally.
stretch, and it's hard to always to say, hey, we're one player away or this or that away, and because it's from year to year, it's amazing how quickly that can change, even with the same roster.
Major League Baseball totally tried to make them the darlings of baseball too.
For sure. There was a
But it
huge
blew
push.
up in their face, in the second half of the season this year. That's for sure.
Yeah, a lot of the primetime games, a lot of the nationally televised games the Padres got, over probably some other deserving teams because, like you said, they were kind of the darling going into this year.
I do think they will be good this next season, though.
They had
Whenever the
injury
season
issues.
is.
So
They have Clevenger coming back. I don't know about Lamet or whatever, but they had some injuries like the Dodgers did to their
Yeah.
starting pitching and stuff. So they're more of a concern for me than the Giants are.
me too. I think I felt like the Giants was a fluke year.
It was a
honestly.
perfect storm for them of goodness. Everything would just went their way.
Yeah, it really
Coming
did.
from a whining Dodgers fan, yeah.
Yeah, but we got the last laugh in the playoffs, so that's
Totally.
okay.
Yeah.
So according to this, I just looked it up. Robbie Ray, 5 years, $115 million to Seattle.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
the Angels could have afforded that. Come on.
Do you want that contract though? I mean,
I think you should just wait on that, and it's not going to age well. Look at how he played with the Diamondbacks.
Well, I'm hoping the same thing for Max Scherzer because he sure didn't pan out for us. His first 5 or 6 starts were phenomenal, and from there on,
He's
Yeah,
got a
down
lot
the
of miles
field.
on that arm.
Yeah, he
exactly.
does. And he didn't
he's
help.
not getting any younger. So
No, and he didn't help when the Dodgers needed him. Look, the Dodgers went and got Scherzer because they wanted another arm in the postseason, and he.
he flat out dead arm.
do
I can't
anything.
play. When we needed him most, he couldn't even help.
Yeah, yeah,
Then Bueller had to go on short rest, and
yep. Well, and you're already down. Kershaw. I know he's not Kershaw of 5-6 years ago, but it's still Kershaw. And you're down.
yeah, I'm
him.
hoping he decides to retire this year. To be honest with you,
I kind of do too. I love Kersh, but I
Oh,
just don't know.
yeah, how can you not? I mean, and he's just a phenomenal human being too.
Yeah, yeah,
Somebody will give him 10 million a year to stick around.
yeah. They will.
Texas.
Angels
that'll be
will
hard to
give
turn
him
down.
10 million.
Bill, I mean, look at
We're all about giving older people a ton of money to just play
Be
poorly.
mediocre.
Maybe you could do that. You could give him a ton of money and say, "Hey, when you go in the Hall of Fame, will you wear an Angels hat?"
Yeah, we'll even tell him, you know what, you can keep your house in LA. We'll still take you.
We'll still take you.
All right. Speaking of Hall of Fame, that
Uh-huh.
was one of the other events that was just going on, the voting. And I want you to name the player that has a higher WAR than David Ortiz, Oral Hershiser, Mariano Rivera, Johnny Damon, Willie Stargell, Tim Hudson, Bobby Bonds, and is not in the Hall of Fame, but is on the ballot.
Maybe I'm trying to be too obvious, but is it Barry Bonds?
No. No, I was shocked that this player is on the ballot. David Ortiz is going to get in probably, or is already in. I don't even remember. And this guy has a higher WAR than Ortiz and probably won't get in.
Is he
True.
new? I mean, within his 5 year, is he?
No, he's been on for, I think, 2 years on the
Okay.
ballot. I won't make you scramble too much. It's Mark Burley.
Oh,
Oh,
of course.
I should have known. You're a White Sox fan. You'd have known that.
Mark Burley.
Wow.
World Series, perfect game, no hitter. How was it 15 or I don't know, 12 years, something like that, with over 200 innings a year, and the
Yeah.
guy can't get a sniff.
Well, it looks like he got 44 votes. He got 11%. That'll come up.
Yeah,
That'll come up.
but there's
Question
some
is-
guys in there that played in bigger cities that are going to get
Yep.
in ahead of them, and it just sucks.
You know what? That happens, and it's frustrating to watch. And I feel like it happens in baseball more than any of the other sports with that. And Burley was on the World Series team, right?
Yes,
Hmm.
yeah, he got a save, and he admitted that he was already been drinking in the dugout when he came in that game.
Oh my goodness.
Probably made him relax.
Wade
Yeah.
Boggs would be so proud.
Yeah,
David, I just lost it.
yeah.
Pitched the game for the Yankees, hungover.
Yep.
David Wells.
Wellesley.
David Wells.
Oh, that's funny.
So
No.
here's some.
We could go
here-
back to Doc Ellis,
That's-
pitching on something else.
So here's some of the names that are on first ballot. These are the names that are first years on the Hall of Fame ballot this year, and it'll be interesting. A-Rod, Ortiz, Teixeira, Jimmy Rollins, Carl Crawford, Jake Peavy, Justin Morneau, Prince Fielder, Joe Nathan, Tim Lincecum, Jonathan Papelbon, AJ Brzezinski, Dave, and Ryan Howard. And so of those, probably the only person that gets in is David Ortiz.
And he's got a WAR of 55, which is good, really good. That ranks him 244 all time. Mark Burley is 200 all time with a 59 WAR.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well,
And-
If you're not gonna let Bonds in, you really can't let A-Rod in then.
No, it'll be A-Rod, Bonds, and Schilling will go in on the same ballot on the Veterans Committee someplace.
I think Ortiz, he did test positive back in the day, right? But he at least admitted it. He's, and took ownership of it. Didn't he?
I don't
I
Possible.
think
I
his
don't
name was
remember.
on that list of 100 players that came out, but I don't think he ever tested positive for it. I think
okay.
I think his name is on there, and that's what people associate it with. 'Cause I thought that for the longest time, but I could never find anything online that stated he tested positive or anything.
Yeah,
So-
I really wouldn't have a problem with any of them because it was so rampant. If they just would come out and admit it and apologize. It's the
Well, and
ones that like Rafael Palmeiro that I did not do it, dude.
Well, Sammy Sosa's in that club too.
Yeah. Just admit it. We're a pretty forgiving society. I mean,
But there were some
Here,
posts on
I'll give you
social
an
media.
example. I just found Ryan Thibodeau on Twitter yesterday posted that 9.7% of the votes known right now on the ballot. That's about 38 ballots. So not a great sampling, but right now Ortiz, Bonds, and Clemens all have over 75%.
Hmm?
Would be in based on just those 10%. A-Rod's all the way down at 47%. But to your I think we're starting to get to the years where there's a possibility that a lot of these guys could start ended up getting into the Hall. I think that some of the writers, and part of that was the purge they did a couple years ago to get rid of guys who haven't been active as baseball writers in 50 years that are we're still voting,
right.
So
Dave, what
There
were
were
you
some
gonna say?
posts on social media last week and the week before from some former MLB players basically saying, how do you keep Barry Bonds and Clemens out when there are dozens of guys who haven't been publicized who were doing the same thing?
Mhm.
And some of them are already in. And it's only because they were under the radar, they were in a low profile city, whatever, but
Yep.
they're already in. So what are we doing?
It's hard too, because it baseball, just my personal opinion, mishandled the whole thing right from the get-go.
Totally.
I mean, it should have
Totally.
been what we're talking about right here. Hey, we're not going to investigate. We're going to change rules here going forward as to what happens if you're caught on positive tests. But we're not going to smear. All they did was harm their own brand. I mean, it was like cutting off their hand, both their hands, to spite their face. And they just, it should have been just, look, and like you said, Mike, we're a forgiving society, even more so now than we were even 20 years ago. And, come out, if you're on there, you tested positive or you're on the list, just do it. I know A-Rod was down on that list I just looked at, but at least he has kind of owned up to it finally. After, I mean, it took several failed tests and stuff, lawsuits.
Well,
but
he fought it and he missed a season too.
yeah, but for him, I mean, I think you guys would agree, he's been one of the bright spots of baseball commentary since he became a commentator on it. I mean, I love watching his insights on things, and yeah, he's a little bit of a weirdo, but we all are in our own way.
Do you think Jimmy Rollins gets in?
I don't know. I think he probably should, but he probably falls into that category of a guy like Mark Burley, where, even though he's in a bigger market, he just kind of gets overshadowed by, other players of the time. And
I don't have stuff in front of me, but his stats are pretty comparable to Jeff Kent, and Jeff Kent's not in.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's another one who, he's probably hurt himself because he's such a jerk to people.
Well, and I think too with Jeff Kent is you're at that point, I feel like anyone on the Giants during the Barry Bonds era is always going to be in the shadow of Barry Bonds and forgotten.
Well, and they're probably,
Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, they're probably taking a hit on votes because they played with Barry. And so there's those people out there who would be like, well, maybe if they were on a team with the guy who wasn't cheating like Barry, they wouldn't have those numbers. So that could play into it too.
They knew
Right.
that Barry was doing something and didn't say anything.
Right. And didn't do anything about it or whatever. So
I got to give Kent credit for the fact he never bowed down to Barry
Nope.
at all. I
That's
think
true.
he was just,
He should
he drove Barry Bonds crazy.
he should be in the hall just for that.
Yeah.
So to give you
But back to the thing, Bonds, about Kent not being a likable guy. I mean, that's Bonds. That's 2 strikes against him right there. He was supposedly a total jerk and a cheater. So
I'm looking at the numbers real quick. Kent had a 290 all-time batting average. Jimmy Rollins had 264. Jimmy Rollins had 2,455 hits. Jeff Kent had 2,461. So he beat him by 6 hits.
Jimmy Rollins WAR is 47.6.
Mm-hmm.
what was
I'll get
Kent?
you Jeff Kent. I'll get you Jeff Kent at 55.5.
55.5.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if Kent's not in, I find it really hard to put Jimmy Rollins in.
Yeah. You honestly, I think Jimmy Rollins is going to end up in the Hall of Very Good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
which, by the way, brings me to another thing. I am so glad that guys like Gil Hodges and a few others were able to get in this year. I mean, everybody liked that. That was pretty cool that they had that, don't you think?
Yeah,
Mini Minoso. How's that?
Yeah.
Tony
Maybe also-
Oliva. I mean, he played on those, good Minnesota Twins teams in the 60s with Rod Carew and them. So, yeah, he was a good hitter.
Yep. All right. So we're going to go around the horn. We're going to give you 30 seconds. We're going to wrap up, and I'm going to tell you a few funnies for 2021. So, V, we're going to start with you again. 30 seconds. Anything else that you want to say about 2021 besides the Angels didn't play in October, but we already knew that, right?
Yeah. Okay, so glad the season's over. Let's get this lockout done and over with. I think of Cody Bellinger and I think of lockout and I think of his face looking up and he's just saying, well, why don't we call a locksmith if there's a lockout?
Ah,
That's, I
So,
can
yeah.
see a meme for that.
Yeah.
It's
and
out there.
But I'm ready for a new season, ready for a fresh start, ready to have Trout back and ready to hopefully spend some money on some pitching.
beautiful, beautiful. Mikey, 30 seconds, 2021 in review.
Well, mine's coming basically from a Dodger point of view, and that is, it was a success for me because we knocked the Giants out of the playoffs. So,
And the Cardinals.
yeah, well, yeah, but I don't care about the Cardinals. The Giants. Bye-bye.
There you go. Bye-bye. Awesome. Scotty.
For me, I mean, it was another fun season. It was good to see all the fans back in the stands in most of the stadiums, and at least partial fans in some of the cities. But for me, I'm of course a Dodger homer, but I still believe if Max Muncy doesn't get hurt, that the Dodgers win the World Series this last year. I think they missed that bat, and I think that has been a little underappreciated in reviews of the Dodgers season by a lot of the so-called know-it-alls out there. That was a huge loss for them, not just the numbers he puts up, but the way that lineup stacks up and how you have to pitch everyone else around him, especially the year he was having.
Absolutely. Dave.
I want this lockout to end so I can get a second baseman. We need one bad, and I want a high-end second baseman. And the other thing I'll leave you with is, if you haven't watched it, get on YouTube after this recording and watch the walk-off home run from Tennessee over Wright State in the college playoffs last year. It's the best video ever.
Okay.
I'm on it. Okay, so as we're wrapping up 2021, I have made a few notes of things that are quite comical about 2021, right? And I appreciate everybody's thought pattern. First of all, pitching checks. Stop it.
Oh,
Okay. For the love of everything decent and holy, stop it.
my only happy part about those checks were the multiple pitchers and catchers who would check themselves or check their teammate right in front of the ref to just say, look at how stupid this is that you're doing this.
Watch the Lance Lynn meltdown. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, and,
that was awesome.
Sergio Romo dropping his drawers.
Yeah.
And then number 2, in 2021, we saw that you can actually steal first base. You have to do it against the Pirates, but you can actually steal first base. We learned that. Number 3 that we learned in 2021 is you can actually hit a home run, get called out, and still get an RBI all on one play. Thank you, Cody Bellinger, for learning this, and JT. We appreciate that greatly. So you can still get an RBI and get called out when hitting a home run. Okay, so these are fun things that we're learning about baseball that nobody ever thought. We never thought, and for anything ever, did we ever think that we would be able to see somebody get called out and still get an RBI. That is a great cocktail party joke. Nor did we ever think that you could steal first base and then steal second base on the same play with 2 outs, might I add, on that play. So, boys, thank you for joining me tonight. We appreciate it.
Hey, real quick,
Yes.
quick parting shot. I will welcome Tio Albert back for another season with hugely open arms. I'll take a hug.
There you go.
All right, let me jump on that real quick. If there's a designated hitter, I fully agree with him.
I bet
There you go.
I'm betting there will be a
You
DH.
can have him.
There you go.
Hater.
There you go. Well, top fans, it's been fun with it 2021 in the clubhouse. We appreciate Viliami and Mike and Scott and Dave joining us. We're going to transition next year. We're still going to have our YouTube channels, so please, by all means, follow that. But be prepared. We are going to be launching our podcast, and this actually, you'll get a chance to hear this on a podcast as well. So for all of you boys that joined us tonight, we appreciate it. Please feel free to subscribe and watch these videos. We appreciate your time. Happy
Thanks,
holidays, all.